I grew up in small-town America. As a kid, I worked in a dairy. My father and grandfather both fought in World War II. There were a lot of constants in my life, things I could rely on. Church on Sundays, the Pledge of Allegiance at school, the love and support of mom and dad, and the fact that I lived in the greatest country in the world, where every day dreams come true. But last Wednesday, as I sat in a congressional hearing room on a rainy day in Washington, D.C., listening to whistleblowers' riveting accounts of what happened in Benghazi on the night Ambassador Chris Stevens, Sean Smith, Ty Woods, and Glenn Doherty were killed, my heart broke. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for joining us tonight. I've spent my career assigning blame for wrongdoing, instructing jurors on how to assess the truth, telling them to use their common sense in deciding who's credible, who has something to gain, something to lose, who has a motive to lie, telling them if someone lies once, you're free to assume they'll lie to you again. And there is something about the truth when you hear it. You simply know it. On the night he died, Ambassador Chris Stevens called whistleblower Greg Hicks to say, "We're under attack." The statement, clear, unequivocal, and foreboding. And Hicks did everything he was supposed to, activating the emergency response plan, mobilizing a team to repel the attack, calling the State Department's Operations Center, continuously updating the Operations Center throughout the night, even chartering a plane to fly the Tripoli response team to Benghazi. At some point, Hicks realized he was being left out of all decision-making and that the order had been given to stand down. There would be no rescue. We now know the Obama administration lied to us. They misled us, and they left Americans to die. So what do we know? Fact. The president knew at 5 p.m. his consulate and ambassador were under attack. He simply told Joint Chiefs Chairman Dempsey and Defense Secretary Panetta to take care of it. He simply went to bed. He didn't even bother to call, never checking with them again. Fact. The next morning, the president takes Air Force One to fly to a Las Vegas fundraiser for himself while Americans burn in the Middle East. He can take Air Force One for a campaign fundraiser, but he can't send fighter jets to save Americans. Fact. The fight lasted 8 hours. Fact, there was no spontaneous demonstration, no YouTube video that ignited the murderous fury in Benghazi, and they all knew it. It's not one fact, but each fact taken together is a connected whole that convinces us of what the truth is. And that truth? Jay Carney, Susan Rice, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, they all lied to us. Now, I'm tired of the sugarcoating. I'm tired of putting truth to the falsehood. A lie is a lie is a lie. Let's call it what it is. The whistleblowers changed everything. The ones who were instructed by Hillary's chief of staff, Cheryl Mills, not to speak to anyone alone about Benghazi, including congressmen. But Greg Hicks says it best.
The job now is it's a demotion. So I've been effectively demoted from deputy chief of mission to desk officer.
Mr. President, with all due respect, you actually demote the man who was on the phone all night scrambling to get help, destroying your classified records, chartering a plane, taking on the terrorist by himself. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you demote a hero? And why would you lie to us? I'll tell you why. Because of a looming presidential election 7 weeks away. Because Americans can't be under attack, especially not a terrorist attack, if, as you say, Al-Qaeda is already on its heels. Mr. President, how could you not send in reinforcements? How could you not send in Americans trained for this very kind of emergency? You're the commander-in-chief. That's your job. And enter Hillary Clinton. Fact. Because the Benghazi consulate security was so substandard, it could only have been inhabited if you had issued the waiver. Fact, Your department continuously denied both Ambassador Stevens and Deputy Chief of Mission Hicks' request for more security. Fact, you actually reduced security when everyone knew of the threats and the prior assaults on Benghazi. And please don't even begin to try to sell us the idea that it was about saving money, because your own staffer, Charlene Lamb, who supposedly was dismissed, swore that the resources were not an issue. And my sources tell me Lamb is now up for an even higher post in the State Department. So, Hillary, why would you do this?
I did tell the Accountability Review Board that Secretary Clinton wanted the post made permanent.
Oh, okay. Now we know. You wanted to arrive on your chariot and announce the establishment of a permanent mission in a normalized Libya. Normalized? When you last visited Libya, you had the Defense Department pre-position assets off the Libyan coast in case you needed rescue. How could you? And then you swear under oath, just back from weeks abroad, logging all those miles, recovering from the flu, the fall, the concussion, and the blood clot. You testify you didn't know a thing about your friend the ambassador's request for more security.
Any of the requests, any of the cables having to do with security did not come to my attention.
Now, Hillary, I know you were busy that night, calling the president of Tunisia when all the action was in Libya. But you can't deny requests for more security in Benghazi and then blame the very people who asked for it. You can't have it both ways. And you want us to believe that you and the president are going to get the facts and get justice? You can't even get to the FBI, to the crime scene, for 3 weeks. And by the way, the FBI guys, they carry guns, don't they? If it takes them 3 weeks because it wasn't safe in Benghazi, how the hell is it safe enough for you to keep our civilian diplomats there? And what to do? Find some guys with impeccable reputations, beholden to your husband, Bill, and ambassador named Pickering, an admiral named Mullen. Have them investigate and make sure they don't ask you any questions, or talk to the guy in charge of the emergency response. And Pickering, he's perfect. He apparently believes America is already full of Islamophobes. And while you're at it, Hillary, why not throw the president of Libya under the bus, too? The man who traveled to Benghazi at great personal risk, confirming almost immediately what you already knew, that it was a terror attack, and you basically call him a liar or clueless to the rest of the world. And how about your take on our money? You take it and buy an advertisement to apologize to the Arab world about a video that has nothing to do with Benghazi while they burn us in effigy. That'll keep the lie going, too. But they say we're obsessed with Benghazi. The New York Times says that our Benghazi obsession is all about hysterical allegations of crimes equal to Watergate. Really? My memory may not be all that great, but nobody died at Watergate, and no one was left on the battlefield. Our Congress, though, they're good. They'll get to the truth.
I find it truly disturbing and very unfortunate that when Americans come under attack, the first thing some did in this country was attack Americans, attack the military, attack the president, attack the State Department, attack the former senator from the great state of New York, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
You're kidding, right?
We have the best military in the world. But even with all of their technological advances, they could not get there in time.
Now, this guy hasn't even heard the testimony, and he's already accusing the man who has the most to lose, his own life, and who was actually on the ground and in the battle, of lying. And it gets worse.
Death is a part of life.
What difference at this point does it make?
It's as if they're saying, enough with the dead and on with the living, on to my next election. And remember this one?
The White House and the State Department have made clear that the single adjustment that was made to those talking points by either of these two institutions were changing the word consulate to diplomatic facility because consulate was inaccurate.
Today we know that was a bold-faced lie. There were 12 deletions of references to terrorism at the instruction of the White House and the State Department. Hillary's henchwoman, that temple of veracity, Victoria Nuland, actually tells the CIA to remove any reference to the prior Benghazi security warnings because it could be used against Hillary. But my favorite, Leon Panetta. There just wasn't enough time. Listen to this one from 7 months ago.
A Monday morning quarterbacking going on here. Basic principle is that you don't deploy forces into harm's way without knowing what's going on, without having some real-time information.
There wasn't enough time? How did you know the fight wouldn't last 24 or 48 hours or more? In which case you could have gotten rescuers there. You could have saved Americans, but you didn't even start the process because you had no intention of saving those lives. You should be ashamed of yourself. Yes, Wednesday was a sad day for me personally, for the families of those killed, and for any American who believes, as I do, that America is the citadel of honor and freedom. This past week, the dreams that I had as a little girl in that small town were shattered. We told you months ago that the administration lied and Americans died. This week, explosive testimony finally blows the whistle on those denials to send help. With me is Fox News military analyst Colonel David Hunt, who joins us from Boston, and former Navy SEAL Christopher Mark-Heben, who was friends and a SEAL with Ty Woods and Glenn Doherty. All right, Colonel Hunt, I'm going to go to you first. I'm going to ask you to assume, Colonel, that the fight began at 9:30 at night in Benghazi and lasted 8 hours. And I want you to assume that the official Washington response was the assets can't get there in time. What's your reaction to that claim?
That's preposterous. It's a lie. And we had forces within 2 hours by jet and 3 hours by air that were in Croatia, armed and ready to go.
All right. Now, when you say Croatia, how far is Croatia from Benghazi? How long would that take?
It would take about 3 hours. And this is a force from Stuttgart called Charlie 110. They were training in Croatia, but they were armed and ready to respond to this kind of crisis.
Okay. And who was in Stuttgart, Germany?
There was a squadron from Delta Force coming back from a mission that was en route and at Stuttgart, but they were a little bit farther away, probably about 4 hours by air, but they're available.
All right. And can you tell us, Colonel, before I go to Chris here, can you tell us what is the purpose of Delta Force? What is it made up of? And what is this C-110 group? What's that about?
Sure. Charlie 110 is called the In Extremis Force. It was designed, it's about 40 Special Forces guys out of Stuttgart, designed to fill the gap for the time it takes SEAL Team 6 or Delta Force to fly from the East Coast to Europe. They were designed 15 years ago, ready to do exactly what happened in Benghazi. All they needed is the order to go. Delta Force is really the Army's SEAL Team 6.
All right, and Chris, I'm going to ask you about Delta Force. Colonel said it's your version of the SEAL team.
Absolutely.
Okay, you were a SEAL. How long would it take a SEAL team, assuming they're somewhere around here, to get together and get to Benghazi?
When SEALs are in the combat theater, which anywhere in this area would be, we're on what's called Alert 60 or Alert 30, which means we're on a very short leash. We can't be within more than 30 to 60 minutes away from our gear and our bags and our weapons ready to go. If we got the call to go, we would be on a plane within an hour flying there. So 2-hour flight time, hour or less response time, we're on scene in less than 3 hours.
All right, and have you been stationed in where in this area as
I've been in
SEAL?
Sigonella, Sicily. I've been in Aviano Air Base. I've been in Germany. I've been in Croatia.
Okay, and
all those places.
What's the frustration level that there were no SEAL teams, no one was ordered to respond?
The frustration level is very high. There were guys in the area. There were guys all over the place.
And you know this for a fact?
I know this for a fact.
All
there
right.
was a SIF team in Tripoli that could have been there within 2.5 hours.
All right, but they got the order to stand down. You all remember Susan Rice appearing on those 5 Sunday talk shows, pushing the violent protest over that despicable YouTube video lie. We now know the White House and the State Department not only lied to all of us about the truth, they also lied to the press. Mistake. With me now is former CIA operative Mike Baker, joins us from Boise, Fox News military analyst David Hunt, still with us from Boston, former Navy SEAL Christopher Markeben, still with us in New York. All right, Mike, right from the get-go, they threw the CIA under the bus. Do you feel exonerated?
Yeah, unhappily so. You'd like to think that the White House has more honor than that, but we've been talking about this, Judge, on your show shortly since the attack occurred. The White House, oddly enough, is in charge of the White House talking points, the points that they put together under their direction to explain their position on any particular matter. They would like us to think somehow that the CIA is driving that train, or the State Department now, as if somehow the White House is nothing more than a mouthpiece. Hey, you send over your talking points, we'll read whatever you draft. Just go ahead. But it's an indication, again, of this continuing contempt that the president has for the public, in the belief that they can't tell the difference between a load of crap and the truth.
Well, and that's an interesting comment. And Colonel Hunt, I'm going to go back to you. One of the things that Greg Hicks said was that he was told that they couldn't get an F-16 there because they didn't have an air tanker to refuel. What's your thought on that?
It's ridiculous in the face of it. An F-16 takes off at supersonic from Aviano, Italy, and they refuel in Sicily, and then they go into Benghazi, and the same thing coming back. We've been in combat for over 11 years. This administration for over 4 years. We know how to go from point A to point B and kill something. They were just never given the order to do it.
Colonel, why do you think they never got that order to defend Americans? Why?
The only answer is political, because the military is so well trained, along with the intelligence service, after this much combat. It's a political. I don't know why the president didn't get the order. I just know he is the only one that can do it.
And Martin Dempsey, you know him. You worked with him. Why would he say we couldn't have gotten there in time?
That's disingenuous at best and a lie at the worst. I served with Marty as colonels. Shows you how good my career was. But the fact is that Marty knows better, and everyone in the special operations community and in the Air Force who was in Europe at that time know better.
Okay, and Mark, you lost 2 friends. The SEAL community. I mean, this is what you guys do. What is the feeling in that community?
There's a big feeling of frustration. This is what we train for. This is what we live for. There were half a dozen or more hardcore, ass-kicking government assets that could have been on scene within 4 hours, and nobody got the call. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. They let my buddies hang out up there on that rooftop like a set of dog balls, just exposed without any support.
Why?
Ridiculous.
Why do you think they did that?
Well, as the colonel said, there's got to be a political agenda at work here. What they're covering up, we're not exactly sure yet, but I know it'll come out at some point in time. This administration reeks.
Well, and Mike Baker, what about you? I mean, the CIA community, what is their take on all of this after you hear from Hicks and the whistleblowers who had so much on the line and were willing to take it?
Right. Well, there's a lot of people right now that are very thankful for this week and what took place. And as you pointed out also, for I think a growing realization amongst the White House press corps that they've been lied to from the start. That more than anything will probably continue this push and give us more traction. But the agency, they've got a long history of getting thrown under the bus. That part of it they're used to. But now to show that they were very clear in their reporting leading up to this attack, talking about the deteriorating security situation and all the problems that were taking place there, Al-Qaeda and Ansar al-Sharia, all those difficulties, then to have those pulled out over a period of 12 different revisions and have the White House now try to pass off this idea that, well, it was just the agency and the State Department. We had nothing to do with it. Well, that they're driving the train.
And it is disappointing. Colonel Hunt, very quickly, what about all of the forces that were trained to get involved in this in emergencies? Some of them actually disobeyed orders and left from Tripoli and went to Benghazi in spite of what the president didn't order. Your take on that?
Yeah, they did from Tripoli and got stuck at the airport. But we have to remember, if it wasn't for the CIA at the base, more Americans would have died. They heroically fought their way down a mile and a mile back to save Americans. They did it on their own. That was a small, very, very good force. But the issue is we had other forces that also could have been there. When this fight starts, nobody knows, as you said, it was going to last 8 hours. It could have lasted 24.
That's
There's
right.
no excuse
they never
for what
sent
happened.
help. All right, Colonel Hunt, Mike, and Chris, thanks so much for being with us.